Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Hero Movie Podcast, your greatest source for superhero movie discussion in the multiverse. I'm your host, Adam Portress, and joining me today, all he does is fix things and get depressed. Sweet Sean Kovacs from the internet.
Why doesn't this radio work?
And he may have ducked this episode, but I still wrote a joke, so I'm going to say it. He's a troglodyte with a freezer full of ice cream and a hatred for water, Bruce Leslie. Bruce is out this week, everybody. Last minute kind of thing for him, but we wish him the best of luck, and we'll cover. We've done it before. We can do it again. It's possible.
We certainly can.
This week, everybody, we're talking about Samaritan. I don't know if you've heard this program before, but this is kind of a big deal here at the HMP. When patron saint of the show, Sylvester Stallone, stars in a superhero movie, when we relate every superhero movie back one-to-one with Sylvester Stallone, you can imagine it's a pretty big day here at Camp HMP. So we'll be talking about Samaritan and all those kind of good stuff coming up in not too awful long. But before we do that, we do want to say a big old thank you to everyone who supports us over at patreon.com/HMP. Those fine, intrepid people get the pre-show, the post-show, the Dinger Zone. And if you are a Game of Thrones / House of the Dragon fan, that's what we're going to be doing in our Dinger Zone episodes for the next couple weeks here, is reviewing the previous week's House of the Dragon episode. So go check that out, patreon.com/HMP. We do have a new supporter this week. Eric Cotton comes in at the $5 level. Sean, what do we got for Eric?
Right. So you know how I do this. At this point now, Adam, that I like to do a bit of a deep dive on folks, like their name, and sometimes we get into their history. Sometimes we get into the most famous person in with that name. Mm-hmm. And today it's a little bit different. Because today, after doing some fairly, how do I put this? I had to do a little more digging than I usually do.
Spelunking, if you will.
Yes, yes. And so because of that, it was it kind of took me on a weird path that I generally.
I try to stay away from that portion of the internet.
It took me on a path that I wasn't used to going down, and so this week, our new Patreon member, his name is Eric Cotton with a K. Mm-hmm. And
Eric with a K, not the Cotton with a K. That'd be a weird one, but yeah,
the Eric has a K, not the Cotton. So this is what I got here. So when Adam first asked me to come up with our newest Patreon member's nickname, he said, "Hey, the name is Eric Cotton, and Eric with a K, if that matters." And let me tell you, as someone with a weird spelling on my first name, the K matters a good deal to one Mr. Eric Cotton. I guarantee you.
See, how dare you? I'm gonna flip this table. You spell it with a C, you so and so.
Well, as somebody who spells it SEAN, and those are not letters that make the sh noise in the English language, I totally understand. And I'm glad that Eric spells it with a K, because there's a good deal of Erics with a C out there. They're mostly football players.
Yeah.
They mostly don't have much of a neck. But Eric Cotton with a K, now we are talking. Because Eric, I'm not sure if you're aware of this or not, but there's a Swedish clothing company that makes swimwear and leisure wear, and they're called Panos Emporio. And my favorite thing about this company is that it takes itself so seriously that anytime the company describes itself, it makes me laugh. Okay, so listen to this. Here is them describing something. Panos Imperio holds a vibrant culture that has been burned with passion through 3 decades. Yes. During our journey, we have built a strong bond with devoted customers of all ages, with our core values being happiness, love, and quality. Now, Eric Cotton with a K, would you like to guess what product that they're speaking about after reading that line? It's socks. They're
Ooh.
talking about socks. 16.84 socks. $16.84. I actually had to do the conversion because it's in euros.
That's not. I mean,
And
honestly, that's kind of a low price for socks. If you're getting like nice stretch socks, that's a low price. That
it
is
is.
value.
It's not bad at all.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? I've spent way more than that on socks. And the name that they've given these socks, these $16.84 socks, they are called Hands Eric with a K Cotton.
Hands? It goes on your feet though.
It's not hands with a D.
Oh.
It's Hans.
Oh, Hans. I'm sorry.
Like Hans Gruber.
I was like, that's a really odd choice to call something that you put on your feet hands. I'm like, hey, different cultures have different ways of doing things. I'm here to learn.
So, Eric with a K Cotton, your HMP nickname will now forever be called, you shall ever be called, Swedish Socks. Congratulations. You're the newest member of the HMP, and thank you for joining.
Swedish Socks. There you go. It has it. And our good buddy Badger Brock came back in with Patreon and stuff too. Again, giant thank you to everybody who supports the show. Patreon.com/HMP. We have a little bit of a housekeeping to kind of keep up with in conjunction rather with Patreon. So it's been a minute. Let's do this.
Bale's here.
Our first one here comes from our good friend Marty.
Oh, Marty.
Marty writes, "Hey, you dirty babies. I've been running around all over the place for some time now, work and life, so I've been relying on trusty HMP driving companions to keep me company. Still love it, guys. Could you do me a favor, please?" And he spells favor with a U, and I think that's a mistake.
Well, that is how they do it over there.
That's a mistake. Evie turns 21 on August 31st. That's this Wednesday. Would you mind giving her a dirty baby shout out, please, even though she still claims that she's too cool for podcasts? I think we can.
Okay, so first of all, that is an arrow through the heart. That Evie, who was probably still in elementary school when this show first started, is now 21 years old. But Evie, you are the original dirty baby to this show. So happy birthday, 21 years old. That's awesome.
Very nice.
She is the first HMP dirty baby, no doubt about it.
And my this is back to Marty. My birthday is on the 18th of September. I hope you can make my wish come true, please. Each week I am on the edge of my seat when Adam does the Patreon shout out. Each week he nearly says value for value, but I think he's been bullied too many times over this. I'm looking at you, Mr. Kovacs. So please, that's 3 pleases, all in all caps. Adam, do me a dirty baby value for value soundbite so that I can shout out hell yeah in the car. Love you guys and thanks for keeping me sane each week. Your good friend Marty. Marty, here we go. That's a dirty baby value for value.
My word.
We got another email here. And I tell you what, I do enjoy that this is the way we receive these emails now. This one comes to us. Let's start this one out. Hello, dirty babies. This comes to... On my birthday, I usually commission a local artist to create a special piece of art. This year, I'm doing something different. You 3 are not only my favorite podcast, but true artists in the medium of podcasting. I look forward to Mondays because it means there's a new episode of HMP. So this year, I'm spending some of that money to show my support and appreciation for everything you guys do and keep me entertained. All 3 of my sons listen to your podcast. My best friend who lives on the other side of the country listens. Your show is something that we can share together. You bring me closer to them, and I am grateful for you giving us your time and energy. Adam, Sean, and Bruce, and even old Sean aren't just voices over my headphones. You are people that I can consider family, and as everyone else who listens, except for Adam, years ago, drunk Adam messaged me a picture of Hodor and asked if that was me. I now consider him my mortal enemy. And old Sean had that New England accent that just made me want to punch him in his beautiful face.
That is what happens.
Please continue to work the great work and know that you are valued and appreciated. I will continue to donate monthly at the executive level and encourage anyone who enjoys the podcast to join Patreon. That is from Alex, a.k.a. Brass Knuckles, and he sent us a little bit of extra change outside of the regular Patreon thing. And when Bruce comes back, we'll take a dinger zone and kind of talk about what we want to do. It's a little bit of money, but I think the three of us, I got a plan or two for it. So
cool,
Alex. Thank you so much, man. You've been a longtime supporter and friend of the show and everything. And that, to me, that's like the coolest part of this, is that like we get to know you guys and stuff as well. There's so many giant podcasts out there who don't know who you are. They don't care. We are smaller, but at the same time, too, that means that we can actually, interact with our fans and stuff. People that like this show, you're not going to get Mark Maron to, read your email out in the show for you. More than likely, that ain't going to happen. But here over at H&P, we do that. Now, here comes another email for us. This one comes to us from Noah. Noah writes, "Hello, guys. Just listened to the latest episode, and I heard Bruce talking about the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie. I'm with Bruce on this one. You guys need to check this one out. I understand the hesitation. I did not care for Rise of the Turtles show either. It was just not my scale, not my Turtles in general. I tried to watch the series, but I just could not get into it. But this movie is a good standalone show that is really fun to watch. There are some great moments and very touching stuff. Most of the things that I did not like from the series seem to have been left out of the movie. I think it would be a great one for you guys to check out. Another one that I think could be a fun show to hear on would be your take on The Misfits on Hulu. I thought it was a fun watch. Would love to hear your takes on it. That is from Noah from the Darkwoods."
Well, Noah from the Darkwood, I have watched a ton of The Misfits on Hulu. I loved that show when it came out. Not a bad idea at all, actually. There's I being somebody who watched it pretty early on, I way prefer dude who's on Umbrella Academy to dude who was on the Preacher Show. But it's you got to take a shower after watching a couple episodes of that show. It is nasty. It is a nasty show.
So we'll definitely we'll think about some Misfits. I think we'd probably at least bantered it around a little bit as for something that we might watch at some point. But Noah, that brings me into speaking of which, Noah's you heard Noah from the Darkwoods. He's obviously a Patreon supporter. So patreon.com/HMP. All of those fine people will be able to vote on what we watched this for last month, because technically I said we're voting on Samaritan this month. I didn't put up a vote. We're watching Samaritan, but we're going to put it up to you for next week. So next week, we're going to try to see if we can kind of catch up on some stuff. We're going to throw in that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movie that Noah was talking about. We're going to have that in there as a choice, as well as the second half of Umbrella Academy or the second half of Sandman. We also have two other movie choices for you guys to choose from. We have Supersonic Man. That is a kind of a crummy superhero flick. It's on Tubi right now. The only way that you can find it is the Riff Tracks version and stuff, but that really, I've watched it before. That's probably the way you want to watch that thing.
Okay, good. So you've seen it before.
Oh yeah, it's
so is it something where it's just some like C grade like shot on HD kind of a movie, or is it something that's like from the 70s and like from Mexico?
It's more the latter. It leans into a little bit of the latter and stuff. It's not bad. When you see a guy on the spaceship, this alien ship and everything, he's like in a pair of Speedos and stuff, and like he's hairless and weird. It's very strange. Anyways,
that's really great.
And the last choice that we'll have for our Patreon supporters, Chip and Dale's Rescue Rangers movie. We talked about that when it debuted a couple of months back, and we'll put that here on the list. So those are going to be your movies. You can vote on those. Patreon.com/HMP. We'll put those up as soon as we can and close out the voting. Well, we'll call it Wednesday night just so we have enough time to figure everything out. That's Patreon.com/HMP. All right, boys and girls, let's get into it. Here's the trailer for Samaritan.
Wait up! What do you do with all this junk? Keeps me busy.
Another long night of crime and violence.
Some say it's only a matter of time before the city implodes.
I think we're finished here. Go on, beat it.
I found him. Samaritan.
Samaritan died 25 years ago.
That's what they say.
You think you live across from a superhero? Do you have a therapist, kid?
Kid. Samaritan's dead. I pick up garbage for a living, pal.
Samaritan cleaned up the streets.
You mind your business, I'll mind mine.
I don't believe you! Are you okay?
I'm cool.
How strong are you?
Not as strong as I once was. Things start to fall apart when you stop caring. And I stopped caring a long time ago.
How come you hate who you are?
For some people, it's too late to change the damage they've done.
He's hiding something. I want him dead.
Really?
The things you bury tend to haunt you.
Why did you disappear?
Hey, old man! Try this.
Alrighty, that was a trailer for Samaritan. You know what time it is.
It's time for Bruce's comic book connection.
Okay, so Bruce had a last minute cancel on us, so but we don't have a comic book connection proper. But Sean, you know a little bit at least, enough to fill us in. Give us some gaps. What do we got? Did I turn you up?
Sorry. Okay. So Samaritan. So I know a little bit about this. So Samaritan is originally a graphic novel that was written like I want to say like 2012, and there's three different novels, like graphic novels or big fat comic books, as I like to call them.
Fatty comics.
Yeah, and they were actually written by the writer of this movie. I'm going to completely butcher his name, but his name is Braji F. Shoot, I want to say. And he basically wrote, this is during the time where a lot of Hollywood writers were like, oh, you know what? If I write a comic book to this, there's a much better chance that I'm going to have this made into a movie.
Yeah.
So it's not like this dude is a dude who like wrote, like, was in the bullpen at Marvel. Like did none of those things. He was trying to get this movie made, and it worked. Yeah. I mean, it did work. And you know, this guy is like, he's written a couple other things. Like he wrote a lot of episodes of the TV series of Ninjago.
Oh,
and
well,
yeah. like a lot of it. And and things like he wrote that series that I want to say that it's a Blumhouse series of movies, The Escape Room. Is that Blumhouse? Do you know?
I think so. I want to say the first Blumhouse. I remember seeing the first movie, so my guess is it's probably that. Yeah.
Because you know, there's Escape Room, and then there's Escape Room Tournament of Champions.
Yeah,
which is the
they both have. Well, Deborah Ann Wall's in both, so yes. Which, by the way, I saw the first one, not great. If you like her, it's worth at least watching for that.
Okay, very good.
But that's about it.
If that's your style, lady, good on you.
Yeah.
And so, you know, he's been kicking around for a while, and it looks like his career, just looking over his filmography here. It really does look like he's put in the time. Like, it's not something where, yeah, he kind of skipped a couple of steps writing a comic book movie.
Yeah.
But for everything else, he's been in the trenches. And
it feels like it's something that was churning in him, as opposed to just like, this will be my entree into the world of Hollywood.
Right. He's not doing that thing that, that some people, it's the thing that I can't stand where like, oh, you know what? Comic books idiots read those. So I'll just make a comic
It's
book.
simple enough to do that, and then I can
Yeah.
base my true work off of the paltry comic.
Right. And it's clear that that's not what the case is here. And, one of the neat things about this movie is that it is a stripped down version of superhero storytelling. Like, it's not super deep. It's one of those movies where you can walk away from it and come back and you still know what's going on. Like, that's kind of good. Every so often one of those is a bit of a palate cleanser. It's not, this is, well, we'll get into it, but that's your comic book connection for this week.
All right. Now, if that comic connection wasn't enough for you, and it should have been, let me sell everybody on this Stallone-led feature because this sucker's got everything. We got Stallone as a former superhero, a face scar, salt and pepper beard, Martin Starr. You got your girl from Orange is the New Black, tagging, dumpster diving, bus riding, comic book drawing, breaking and entering, grocery store cart riding, Matt Black villain cars, peer pressure, lottery looting, Pacey does Kiefer, punk kids, rear window, an evidence board on a closet door, a proper evidence board, a blackout bomb, glow sticks, Dr. Doom mask, sledgehammer of hate, hairless cat and ice cream social, dollar store Bane speech, apple juice and Cheerios, rooftop training, blowtorch, wrench smashing, regrettable tattoos galore, body tossing, barrel tossing, little girls saving, garbage truck driving, juggernaut wall smashing, Slipknot mask, CGI fire, Stallone wet t-shirt contest, and one of his best lines, have a blast. This movie's got everything.
Ooh, man, that was really tough.
Boy, we were like, it's stupid, it's cheesy, it's corny, but there's something that was just like, we ain't had one of those in a minute. So, like, have a blast. I'll take it. I smiled.
And, as I said to you during the pre-show, this movie is almost a movie. I had a lot of high hopes going into this because I knew somebody who worked on the show, and so what I was told the show is, it sounded really great. Like, it was like, oh, that is such a nice, like there's the twist at the end of this movie.
Yeah.
And what was in my head was far better than what we got here. And maybe if it had a lot more money, maybe if it, what this feels like, this really does feel like one of those TV movies from the early 80s where it was like, oh, you know what? Star Wars is a really big deal. Let's make a TV movie that's like Star Wars, but not Star Wars. Like, that's really what this feels like here.
But without the time, talent, and effort, and money of Star Wars, we'd like to do it as well. Can we?
Right. And,
no.
Right. And I mean, that's kind of how it feels like, watching this movie, is that it's almost like a sound alike, but it's a movie. and so, there's a couple of the paces where you're like, okay. And I mean, I am going to have a soft spot for the rest of my life when it comes to Sylvester Stallone, just because of this show. And so I can't just out and out hate this movie, but I can almost guarantee you if it was somebody else, I would be a lot more angry at this movie than I actually am.
Yeah,
because it was such a bummer for me, man. Like, I had I really did think like this had a chance to reach those heights of like Rambo First Blood for me, or like Demolition Man, where it's like, oh, this is Stallone's best, like that kind of thing.
Yeah, and isn't, if I'm not mistaken here, and I just want to check it real quick. I think this movie is, it's PG-13, this movie, and I feel like, and obviously you want to get the biggest crowd that you can to watch this. You've got a young lead in it and everything, so that's kind of, here think about it this way. This movie, by and large, is kind of pitched to like 12-year-old boys.
Yes.
The kid in the show, that's the age of the kid who's going to be watching this. That said, does that kid even really know who Stallone is? I mean, I don't know kids well enough these days, but like, I don't even know that like they would go, oh, that's a guy that we've seen. I mean, obviously, maybe Rocky, of course, is probably about maybe the only thing maybe those kids know him from.
Well, they probably would know him from the later stuff too, right? Like, your dad is going to have stuff on TV where you in just having that cultural osmosis where like you kind of like, I'm sure he recognizes him. I can tell you that my my mid-20s kids, my girls, they know who he is.
Mhm.
But maybe that's the cutoff age. I don't know.
Yeah, it's just weird because I kind of thought about it. I was just like, does a 12-year-old kid know from Sylvester Stallone? I don't know, but
It's a good question.
But I think you're also right in a way that like he's gotten to a point within his career and everything that he is a little like he's just such an institution.
Yeah.
You know who he is, whether or not you've seen most of his movies or any of his movies for that matter. You're at least aware of the man because he's become like even beyond like this. Not to say that this show's had a big thing to do with it, but it's like he's a different kind of. He's almost a different person altogether. He's not like a real human being anymore. At least not to us, I don't think.
Yeah, I mean he's reached such heights. I mean
But
he's
and he's come so far, and I think that's one of the things that we ended up kind of glomming onto with Stallone connections and stuff. And I know that you've said this in the past, is that like Stallone had that section in his life that was just kind of rough and crazy wild Stallone. When you have to go back for like an older Stallone connection, who knows what's going on some of those sets. And he's now the elder statesman kind of grandpa who's still going around caving in skulls and stuff and doing a pretty good job.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
But overall, it's like it feels like the idea. Okay, and by the way, for people that are kind of new to the show, we'll be spoiling everything for this show, so keep that in mind from here on out for spoilers and stuff. But you can, and we'll keep it vague for a little bit, just because I know some people take longer to turn off their podcast than others. But did you see the twist coming? Because I noted the moment, and here's the thing: I don't look for these things. I am not a hunter. I am not someone who decides to play detective. I'm not Sherlock Holmes during a show. I like for stuff to just wave over me. But I knew where this was going 25 minutes into the movie.
Oh, you did.
And had I been looking, I'd have seen it like even earlier. But like I wasn't even looking, and 25 minutes in, I was just like, oh, I pretty much know how this is going to end. And sure shooting, I did. Did you catch that at all, or was it because sometimes I have those moments where I go into a movie and I forget what the last one was, but we were going on for so long, and then there was this reveal, and you heard the audience like members just go, and it's just like they've been showing you this for 30 minutes. How do you not? Is this your first time figuring this out? Wow, you guys are kind of clueless with this. So like I didn't feel like it was quite that bad, but it felt like they were telegraphing it fairly early to me.
I knew the twist before
the even thing.
Right. Like, I mean, before the movie, before there was a trailer for it, like I knew Stallone was in it and I knew what the twist was.
Right.
So I'm not like the perfect audience member to ask that question to.
But yeah, I was, about 25 minutes in, I paused it and I was just like, well, I know exactly where this is going. And I kind of felt bad because it's set up well enough. It's set up too well. Here. The problem is it's set up too well. Okay.
Like, when you look at the really great twist endings of all time, it's always there in the background, the twist, but they never out and out say it. Whereas you have characters saying like the entire time, like Mr. Good Guy, like stuff like that, or like
it's pretty close.
I mean, it's so ridiculous and in your face that it's kind like, I would imagine that as a regular audience member, you're probably looking at this movie like, okay, we get it. He's going to be the bad guy. He's actually the bad guy. Not
Nemesis
the good guy.
is dead. This is Samaritan. And
right.
like he's never once, says anything yay or nay on a name. He even literally says, why are you calling me that? It's like, why. You know exactly why. And everybody's just like, oh, again, it's nothing that's too, but at the same time too, to me, if you look back on it, or maybe, I don't know, is that supposed to be the thing that this ultimately lays on? Is that twist? Is that the crux of everything, really?
It's what it feels like to me is that it feels like it's a pretty stock and standard, like almost 90s action superhero movie.
Yeah.
But there's the twist at the end. And so when you're watching the thing, you're like, well, this is like, okay, this is fine. It's kind of dumb, But then at the end, like whammo, it's kind of the usual suspects of it all, right? Like you're watching the usual suspects. At least I did the first time I saw it in the 90s. I was like, this is an okay movie, but I don't get what the big deal is about. And then when they punch you in the face with that ending, it's like, holy cow.
You're like, oh, okay, I understand what we were all talking about here, because you didn't know that what game you were watching, so to speak.
Right. And so for the end of this movie to work, you basically have to nail that ending. And they were so ham-fisted with it that it doesn't really work. It's if you're getting it 20 minutes into the movie, then we're doing it wrong.
Yeah, you weren't dropping breadcrumbs, you were leaving boulders.
Right, exactly. And so having, when you have that kind of issue with your movie, with your screenplay specifically, you're doing it wrong. And, Stallone, I have a very soft spot in my heart for this guy, but he is not a great actor. He's kind of, there's something off about him in almost every movie, especially when he's trying to be like an everyman. And
I'm
it just doesn't,
like you. Are you though?
I am just like you, even though I have been a multimillionaire for the last 30 years. Like it doesn't work. You know what I mean? And so basically, it's the thing that Schwarzenegger was able to get around in the 90s where, he's super famous, he's super rich, but he never played like a normal guy in a movie, unless like that was the joke that he was the normal guy.
Jingle All the Way, maybe something about that.
But Jingle All the Way is that 90s or is that like 2000?
It's on the cusp.
Yeah.
If it may be early 2000s.
And I mean, again, that's one of those, that's the movie where you're like, this guy is like the worst at being like a just a suburban dad.
I'm from Connecticut. You're like, all right.
The hell you are. You know what I mean? And so it's kind of the same problem with Stallone. Like, yeah, Stallone looks like somebody who's been living in a dumpster in this movie, but like he's still Sylvester Stallone, It's just nuts. And so it's kind of the biggest problem of the movie. That and the fact that the kid is like, I can watch the kid perform. There's something that draws my eye to his performance, but he's not a really great actor.
No, but here's the thing. Here's what I gathered while watching this, because I was trying to figure that out too. I was just like, what is this? What's this kid? And I didn't know from him. And his name with Juana, so I'm like, what are we? He's too young to be a rapper. I mean, like, what's? And apparently he's like, that was his like boxing nickname or whatever. So he's got some background and stuff like that. So I understand why, why he was kind of looked at. But he does have, while he may not be able to act, he's the most real actor, so to speak, in this entire thing. It felt like that.
I totally disagree. I totally disagree.
I felt like that was coming out of a 12-year-old kid, 100%. I mean, that's like the energy. My nephew's like 9, but like that's the energy he gives off, 100%. Like when this kid and like some of the smile and like some of the deliveries and things that he did, it was just like that felt very true to a kid his age to me.
Huh.
Because that's what I thought. I was just like, he may not like. It didn't feel like he had like the. If he had to have a scene where he would probably like sit down and cry or something, I don't know that he's ready for that yet. But for what this role called for, I thought he was just fine.
Look, he was fine, but he's not. I don't think he's great.
No, I mean, like, great's a big term, yeah. And again, with like the stuff that we saw, like last week and stuff with Paper Girls, and having like those young actors just be so amazing at their jobs, and then this one, you're like, well, all right. I mean, now that I've heard Stravinsky, the Ramones, well, they're fun, but it's not exactly the same thing.
Right. And the kid, you think the kid's the best actor in the movie. I didn't
say that.
Oh, I think the mom is the best actor in the movie. She's great. And I liked her in Orange Is the New Black also.
Oh yeah. She was one of my favorite characters in that show. I thought she was really great.
I watched, the first 2 seasons.
Yeah, after that, you don't need no more.
Yeah, I know. and so that writer specifically, like anytime you see that she's writing a show, like the first 2 seasons of that show are going to be great. Don't bother with the rest. She doesn't have any more ideas.
I'm making money though. Woo!
Yeah, that's right.
Just riding that jet ski around the pool.
So I think that I like that actress. I think she's great, and she's good in this as well. dude who plays the sea serpent from Game of Thrones, who's the big bad guy in this movie. He is such a preening schmo that like in everything he does, he's a preening schmo that I don't have the same like there's no real actual menace to him. He feels like somebody who's like, an actor.
Yeah.
To me. So there's never any menace coming out of that guy to me. It's just like, well, you're just a fancy man. You know what I mean? Like you're hitting all your marks, you're doing great, but you're not going to take over the city.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So let's talk about that. So he gets this idea. He's this our main villain is in love with the old villain. What was it? What's a heretic? What's the name of the thing again?
Nemesis.
Again, great naming. Just bland as all get out.
Well, I mean, he when you write for Ninjago for 2 years, you're gonna,
the kids don't know any better. They love it. It's a big word for them. But he likes Nemesis and everything. Gets this Nemesis mask and stuff. I thought this was the weirdest thing ever. He throws in this, EMP for lack of a better word, but it's a grenade that does what an EMP does, but they don't call it an EMP. I don't understand. But he blocks out all of the, he just puts this electronic bomb in the middle of this downtown city and everything. The people come out, and he puts on this mask. And again, it's so Bane-like that he's wearing the jacket with the fur on the collar and everything. Like,
yes.
It's come on, people.
Yes.
And it's got the muffled voice, and it's all there. But it's a horrible Bane speech. But it is astounding to me how these people who were going about their daily lives in, these various businesses and whatnot, all of the power could go out, and in approximately 25 seconds, hear a guy talk on a truck with a mask and goes, you know what, I feel like this revolution's worth joining. Seemed strange to me that these people who would be, I think, would be rather upset that all of a sudden in the middle of the night they are now in total darkness and this man's screaming about that. Like they would kill this dude. They wouldn't be like, I feel like his militia is something we should join.
Yeah, for the most part, humans don't want to make their lives harder. They want to make it easier.
I wanted to go home tonight, not start a revolution. Thanks.
Yes, I would really like to be able to watch TV when I get home, and you have made that impossible, sir.
You've knocked out the whole block. Really, really great job. I guess since there's nothing we can watch on television now, perhaps we have to join your militia because there's nothing else to do. Thanks.
Yeah. Most humans aren't bloodthirsty because they're bloodthirsty. It's because of something else,
Because there's a little something on television for them to watch. So they pump the brakes for the time being. Like, listen, I'm not going to kill today. Maury's on. I don't know who's watching.
Yeah. A lot of Maury fans keeping it barely hanging on.
Barely. They're just like, if it were for this Maury, I'd be going on a spree, fella.
The only time I have ever seen that show is when I'm getting like my car worked on. It's the only time I've ever seen that show.
It used to, like, the funny part is like, Maury tangent, but people like these tangents, I've heard on the emails. But Maury used to be like, it was like a serious talk show for a minute. All of those shows like went through a moment where it was just like, oh, we're really helping people and blah, 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 and trying to get to the bottom of stuff. And then it just becomes Springerized, and then it just goes totally bananas. But I wonder when I think when he's doing the paternity test that Connie Chung is just sitting at home with her hands in her face, just going, "Oh God, why this guy? Why this guy?"
Oh, I think she's probably happier than hell that he just keeps bringing in the checks.
He just gets like, I don't have to be on the news anymore. I don't have to read nothing. This is sweet.
Exactly.
What's Stallone's power sets in this thing? I mean, he's kind of unbreakable, and I think that's what a lot of people are comparing this to. It is Unbreakable. Obviously, it's nowhere remotely as close as an amazing movie as Unbreakable is.
I think of this character more as like Luke Cage.
Okay.
Where, he can't fly. It's not realistic what's happening to him. It seems like his only weakness is a big old hammer. A sledgehammer. So I don't know what else to say about it. Like, you're like, okay. This is your all right. So yeah, he's more like Luke Cage, but not nearly as cool. And he and he also has like that, uh, like like it's more than street level.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think one of the big ones for me is that like he's this big giant. He's a big giant dude, and he gets shot, he gets hit a lot, and everything. And we've got this idea that he's like practically bulletproof, and then they throw in this thing about him getting overheated, which I thought was like an interesting element. It only comes back one other time in the film, and you're not exactly sure what triggers this per se. Like again, it feels like there was half an idea here that was pretty cool. That like, okay, so he's going to get to a point where sometimes like if he doesn't, cool off or whatever, he explodes, and that was kind of maybe that was the thing that like led to, the superhero tag team explosion back 20 years ago when he, killed him off and decided to retire and all that kind of good stuff. And again, that's another great almost storyline that we've got here, right? Again, spoilers for all this thing, but this villain ends up killing his twin brother in this big giant accident and everything. But for whatever reason, that's his come to Jesus moment, right? Mm-hmm. He goes, what am I doing? I've killed my brother. This is the thing. And then decides I'm going to retire and just doesn't do anything. There's something here. There's that
it's so
premise,
close, man.
That premise is so good, but we don't walk anywhere with it in this. We add the kid element, which is interesting enough, but it doesn't push it along. We don't really know anything about his motivations for anything. I don't know what his character wants. I mean, it's to be left alone at first, but obviously with, this bad guy coming in, taking what we find out later is his name and, going out and spreading violence and chaos on account of all of that. He certainly doesn't want that, but like, I don't know. It feels like there's they had like I said, the skeleton what was there, but no guts to fill it out and make it a real boy.
It's true. You were not wrong.
But some of the action is okay. Like it's not amazing, but like there's some decent enough fight scenes in there. A couple of for PG-13 brutal enough kills, I guess.
There's that really neat moment where the guy has that vapor bomb or whatever it is, and he jumps over the car and flips it up to make it basically a shield and grabs the kid and hides behind the car.
Mm-hmm.
That's a pretty great scene. We are now 2 weeks in a row though. 2 weeks in a row with some of the worst CG work I've ever seen. I mean, man, last week we had Ronald Reagan. This week we got really bad young Sylvester Stallone that looks like a cut scene from a video game in the early 2000s.
I kind of liked it. I like it. It was not super good looking, but it was enough. It looked like weird Isildur for some reason to me. I don't know, with the beard. I don't know. That one video where they do the deep fake of Kevin McAllister with Sylvester Stallone's face. Yes,
that's more realistic looking.
Oh my gosh, you're 100% correct. That little one, and if you haven't seen it, do yourself a favor. Stallone is Macaulay Culkin in Home Alone. This CGI deep fake is just absolutely glorious. The big face and the lips and the nose and everything. Oh, it's so good. But he's still got the great Macaulay Culkin hair, which is the best part of all of it. Is that it just hides it behind. And I'm like, yes, we need to do this for every movie. If we're going to go like that, that's the direction we need to go. Not necessarily this movie. But overall, so yeah, villain-wise, no big whoop. You just don't care. I'm not even sure what his motivations are. Oh, I forgot to mention little in my rundown because I forgot where I was going to put it. Little Tekashi 6ix9ine ripoff. I love that kid. He's such a he's a scumbum looking kid. If you ever seen one,
he is a scumbum for sure.
Oh my Lord, that kid just walks by your house and you're just like, my property value just went down. It's not good. That kid was like, I love him, but at the same time too, I also love him because I've known kids like that. I've known that little gangster dude who's just like probably smells really bad. Just walks around thinking he's tougher than everybody. It's just like, you weigh 98 pounds.
So do you know Sophia Tatum, the actress who's like his number two? You know
No, she
that.
kind of looked familiar, but I'm like, I'm not sure.
Well, I watched half of an episode of the pilot of Riverdale and said no thanks, that's not for me. And apparently she's on that show.
That may be it.
She also was on. She's in Fast 9.
And we reviewed that, and we don't even remember. So,
You guys reviewed it?
oh, did we? Oh no, wait, 9.
I don't think that you did.
No, we didn't do 9. No, because we did 9
Right.
movies, but not the 9th one. That's correct.
Right. I put my foot down after quarantine and was like, I'm never watching another one of these again. You're on your own, boys.
What a, you can't win them all, as they say.
Well, look, I understand there's a lot of rules of engagement to being my friend. I understand that.
At least he knows. He's aware
However,
of it.
I'm trying to save us from ourselves, you know?
I also tell people sometimes, I go, listen, I know what you want, and I know that you think that you want that, but let me just be on the let me just tell you right now, we're just not going to do that. Just for your sake and ours. We all
but looking, I thought that she was better than the main bad guy, quite honestly. I think that she's far too pretty to be someone to be taken seriously as like a main villain.
No, but we put some crummy tattoos on her, so she's
whatever.
She's crummy
okay,
now.
Whatever.
She's one of them dirty babies. Look at her. She's got all that crap on her.
That girl ain't no dirty baby. She hasn't had a hard moment in her life.
I was just like, she goes, he found me. First of all, this is creepy as hell when you think about it. He found me at age 9. Now, granted, they don't say that they have a romantic relationship.
Well,
or anything,
because they this is not that movie, but yes.
But thank heavens. But it seemed, I was just like, all right. At least they didn't have them, like, oh, this is my lady or something like that. I'm like, didn't you pick her up when she was 9? That's not good. That's very bad, actually. So thank heavens that wasn't the case.
And something that I have got to bring up is that this movie feels like one of those movies where, like, maybe 5-10 years from now, like, you can't believe that there's somebody who's in this movie who is super famous now, who isn't right now. Like. Because it just has that feel to it, because there's so many unfamiliar faces to me in this movie where it's like, well, you're grabbing these folks from somewhere, but hell if I know from where.
Yeah.
And one of I've got to bring it up because this kid has the best name. His fat friend, the African American kid who's like fat and like, hey, you want to make some money? That kid, that actor's real name is Abraham Clinkscales.
Abraham Clinkscales?
Yes, that is his actual name.
That's kind of dope.
And it is such a great name, and there's like no one in the history of people would use that as their stage name. So like that's what makes it even better.
But think about this: you're casting
Mr. Clinkscales.
You're a casting director, and you see that name. You're like, I got to see what this dude looks like.
Of course.
You're like, we're gonna bring him in. Name account alone. Minnie Driver. I'm sure has a career on account of her name is Minnie Driver.
You're not wrong. Many drivers probably got that too.
Like we got to bring him in at least to see the face that's attached with this name. Holy smokes, let's do that. Even if it's it'll be a great thing before lunch.
And then this fat kid walks through the door. You're like, oh, we're done. This is our guy. Let's move on.
Clinksdale, you say? Holy smokes, sign him up.
Clinkscales, you've done it. Welcome to Hollywood, kid.
By the way, having been the big kid usually in the group and everything, just because it's a giant human being, your job is to protect those little kids, my dude.
Yeah.
Your job is to be that guy to make sure that those kids don't get picked on. That was my role. It was just kind of be the intermediary that, like, I didn't fight nobody, but I made sure other people didn't fight my smaller friends just because it was like, hey, that's your job. Come on, bigger friend, run it away.
Yeah, what are you doing?
Which, by the way, that also brings up something that I don't know that they thought it out enough within the script itself, because the fact that this kid is such a fan of Samaritan and everything, and his good and prosperous ways, he's hanging out with a lot of ne'er-do-wells and trying. I mean, I understand that he needs to make money or whatever, but like, he specifically knows he's doing crime.
Yes.
I'm conflicted about his non-confliction with this.
Well, it's the thing that I think people are starting to catch on to again, which is that if your character is perfect, no one's going to care. It's the thing with Baby Yoda with Chicky Nuggies, where he's a stinker. Like, Chicky Nuggies is a stinker. It's why we love him so much. And so to have this kid, we're gonna steal some food from the convenience store. Maybe we throw a garbage can through a window. I mean, like that's great. He's a dirty baby. Like, he's a stinker. And so, like, that's how you make it work.
Well, I'm fine with that. My biggest thing is, like, it didn't feel like we were ever going up against any moral stance that he had, or like he was reluctantly doing this on account of he had to in order to, like, there's like the one eviction scene, which is kind of sort of maybe a little close. That's as close as they get to kind of addressing it. I wish they would have done something, I don't know, just to make him feel like he was stuck in a spot that he didn't necessarily want to be in. Because I think with his love of the Samaritan, he would try to stay away from this unless he absolutely had to, and would show some sort of, revulsion to having to do the things that he needs to do. Again, that's another character moment that feels like it could have been put in there and made something a little bit better. Like I said, lots of bones, no guts.
Yeah, well, you're not wrong, man. I mean, there's not a whole lot, but again, to this script, there's not a ton there. It's not that kind of movie. It's just not great.
Yeah, the way
it's just not a great movie.
Him fixing stuff is like a really neat idea.
But again, but that's hitting you over the head with their stuff,
and it doesn't go anywhere.
Right.
And the hammer idea is really neat, but again, ultimately doesn't quite go anywhere. I like the idea, like all the, like, again, they talk about the hammer like it's the One Ring. All of the hate and everything was poured into it, and it's the one thing, and I like that. The one thing that can damage them both is this thing and all that. And again, but it's also just like slap you over the face one more time, just going, you know where this is going, don't you? Don't you?
Mm-hmm.
Don't you? And you're like, I suppose that I do. But if you've been listening to this show long enough, you know where this is going. At this point in the show, we have to ask ourselves how this movie relates back 1-to-1 with, get this, I don't know how he's going to pull it off with this one, Sylvester Stallone.
Why, thank you, Adam. I have a prepared statement.
Ooh.
Mr. Stallone, you're in this movie. There's your connection.
Wait.
You're also... Hold on, we're not done. We're not done. You're also one of the producers of this movie, as eagle-eye viewers might have noticed at the beginning of this, quote, movie, unquote, when they saw the card for Balboa Pictures come onto the screen. As of this recording, Balboa Pictures has produced 3 movies since the company was founded in 2018. I'm sure you already know this, Mr. Stallone, but those 3 movies that you have are Rambo, Last Blood, a documentary about boxing, and this movie, Samaritan. There are a few more movies in development, but the project I'd like to talk to you about is the television side of Balboa Pictures, and that's the series in development over at Peacock called Nighthawks. I think it's great you want to make this story again, and I think it's even better that you're directing it instead of being in it, and playing your role is Frank Grillo, which is the perfect marriage of man to his own name. But I have a few questions. Who's playing the Billy D. Williams role? Because I know that the first actor people will want to plug in is Donald Glover, but he would never agree to that role. So may I suggest someone a little more unorthodox? How's about Tyler Perry as his Uncle Joe character? See, most people would never see that coming, specifically because when people hear Tyler Perry would be Frank Grillo's partner in the TV show, they would think it's the Tyler Perry, Alex Cross type of character. Oof. But out walks Uncle Joe, and guess what? Now we got ourselves a TV show. Also, who are you going to cast in the Rutger Hauer role? Because I know that you two hated each other on that set. So you're going to want someone that can be a bit prickly. And I would like to pitch for Charlie Sheen. You know, remember how everyone was nervous about Robert Downey Jr. a decade ago?
Yeah.
That's Charlie Sheen now. And on a side note, Iron Man is a much different character if instead you cast Charlie Sheen. Think about that for a minute. Mr. Stallone, the best part about bringing in Charlie Sheen is that you're never going to have to worry about where the drugs are coming from on set. I know this is an 8-episode miniseries for Peacock, so you probably don't have a ton of money to burn. So that's even more reason to bring in Charlie Sheen, because how much is he really bringing in these days? And that's the Stallone connection this week. You are the connection. Hope to hear from you soon. I hope I don't butcher the Stallone connection like I did this week. Your pal, Sweet Chauncey from the internet.
It's a lot of pressure. A lot of pressure. Stallone comes in.
Yeah, so much pressure. I feel it.
It's a 1-to-1, and it's like, yowza. Well, here at Movie Podcast, we have our own patented Robin rating system. I'll go first with this one. For Samaritan, for me on the Robin rating system, I got to go just Damian Wayne. It's right in the middle. It's not very good. Like, the saving grace of this thing is Stallone being Stallone in it, and if you're like us, you are a Stallone fan, and I think it's worth watching at least for that one go through. I don't think you're going to be blown away by any stretch of the imagination, but you're going to be like, hey, it's Stallone in a superhero film. Why not? So just Damian Wayne right in the middle.
For me, it's the lowest Damian Wayne I can possibly give, because it is interesting. There are interesting parts to this movie. But boy, oh boy, you are going to forget everything about this movie. We're even having trouble remembering that Samaritan's bad guy, his name is Nemesis.
Yeah, because it's terrible naming, and the costume is wildly uninspired. Like the helmet does look like the helmet from whatchamacallit. It's a combination of Steel and Gladiator.
it's sort of, to me, it's sort of Gladiator and Mad Max.
Yeah. And they do Mad Max the villains' cars. They're all like that matte black kind of thing. It's a little much, but at the same time too, garbage. I don't want them driving like a Kia Sorento or something. So
that's a nice car,
but no, not a villain car though. Not a villain car. You can't be pulling up with that four banger, going like, "Hey, everybody, who's scared?" That is it, everybody. We got another episode of HMP under our belt here. We'll talk about what we're doing in the meantime. Sean, where can they find more of our stuff on the internet?
Oh, I'm all over that internet, especially with the podcasting side of it, because we have a podcast called 30 Questions, where we ask 30 questions of a new nerdy property. And the next one coming up, because the boys demanded it, I had nothing to do with it this time. Is that the boys want to go 30 questions with the TV show Andor, and I am all about it. So get ready for that. That's going to start next month, and we have a million other 30 question shows. So just type in 30 questions into your podcatcher, and there we will be.
Boom. You will find all of that good stuff. And, of course, come back here next week when we're talking our Patreon choices. Remember, Patreon people, here are your choices. We have the second half of Sandman, second half of Umbrella Academy, the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, Supersonic Man Riff Tracks version that's available on Tubi, or Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers. We will have those up for you guys to vote on, and whoever comes out on top, that's what we're going to be watching next week. Thank you again to those supporters over there, patreon.com/HMP. And we like the emails again. Email us, heremoviepodcast@gmail.com. We really love hearing from you guys. That is it, everybody. Join us next week for our Patreon selection for Sweet Sean's Kovacs from the internet and the absent Bruce Leslie. I'm Anna Portress. Stay super, everybody.
Bye, Marty and Evie.